Hey, well, I want to welcome all to this meeting, international labor meeting, and to report on what's going on globally, and also to unify on actions that we can take together in solidarity and with workers around the world. So we have a proposed agenda. If people want to take a look at it, I can put it in again, and then we can discuss that. Let's see, here we go. Here's the agenda. If you want to say, report on Namibia workers' action and national workers' protest 12-3, report on the New Orleans fight to demand rehiring of ATU 1560 President Valerie Jefferson and end attacks on ATU 1560 members, report on Italian government, police, company attacks on FedEx, Amazon, and logistic workers. January 12th day of action, report on UAW Columbia College strike and fight against privatization of healthcare, report on Argentina, a case of 2 labor militants. We'll have the first point is going to be on Namibia. Leonard, you want to introduce yourself and make a report? Let me open you up here. Hold it.
Afternoon, people. How are you?
Good.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, man. I just hope that each and everybody okay. Actually, I was off for a long while because my phone was not. It was stolen actually, and I had a lot of like legal problems. But I'm now on air.
Good.
So if I have to, my name is actually Leonard Ipumbu Simpson. I'm from Namibia, and I'm also from the workers' movement. And I'm also with my fellow brothers. We are fighting the same struggle, and I'm actually thankful for this opportunity to be part of the working class movement. And so if I have to start with my introduction, I'm actually one of the shop stewards, and also both of the affirmative action who was also dismissed. And currently, thanks to the support of my comrades, George, and also with our lawyer, Hebert, my case is now before the High Court, and on the 7th of December for the review application. So that's why I was so quiet, because I have to actually like focus more on my case. And yeah, so that is just a little bit background of myself. So I just wanted also just to be part of this struggle, also just to show support to my fellow comrades also, to hear your struggle, and I hope that maybe with my experience, I can also be able also to contribute and to show my solidarity, and also to show my solidarity support. Sorry, man, so it's just like, it is the first time now for me now to introduce myself, and for such a big platform here as yourself. Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Okay, thank you for joining us. And
okay.
Hey, Watt, do you want to introduce yourself and also make a report on what's going on in Namibia? And Erica, hi, Erica.
Ebert Bekers, I'm a socialist, and I'm also a consultant with the Workers' Advice Center. I defend the Rossing mine workers in the court at present. Yeah, and I come from a very long way back with workers' struggles since early 70s. And Erica is my wife. She is the director of the Workers' Advice Center. She has also, together we founded the Young Socialist Movement in 1974 in Namibia. And we've been politically very active. She is also the chairman of the Joint Committee of Relatives and Former Clan Fighters who are fighting for international inquiry into the mass murder of Namibians during the 70s and 80s in Angola and Zimbabwe. The creation of of revolutionaries and freedom fighters in the SWAPO movement. Yeah, that's it. She's also involved in various struggles of the homeless. She is the patron of the Housing Committee of Homeless. Yeah, that's about, you can come to know us further on as struggles continue.
Okay, well, why don't we go around the room then, and everyone can introduce themselves. David, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, comrades. Greetings to everybody, and excuse some of the background noise. It's very much a family time here, and some people want to do the washing all the time, even when I tell them not to. I'm a socialist from South Africa, very much still in touch with developments at home, but actually living in a kind of second exile at the moment. And, you know, I've been writing at the moment about the crisis of the African National Congress, which has been humiliated in the last elections in South Africa, in the local government elections, and has lost control of virtually all the metros. All the major cities now are not in the hands of the ANC, except, to my shame, Durban, where I come from, where real gangsters are in charge there. And have launched attacks on the homeless and so forth. These people are shameless. So that's a bit of my background. I'm working together with Steve and hopefully with everybody here through the Workers International Network to make sure that our struggles not only are heard, but actually lead to success.
Thank you, David. Okay, Roberto?
Just myself, or
yes.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself.
Well, probably you've already known me before. Anyway, I'm from Italy. I'm in charge for international relations of the rank and file union SICOVAS. And yes, I'm also a socialist who thinks that trade union struggles should help a more general struggle to change society and not just to live a bit better in this society. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Valerie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. I can say good morning from here, and I can say good night from across the country, right? So my name is Valerie Jefferson in New Orleans, Louisiana. Now I'm the president of Local 1560. I've been terminated, reinstated in my job as a bus operator at our. We're in the middle of negotiation of contract, and we also, I want to say, still finishing up the transition from private to public.
Okay, thank you. Ricardo?
Yeah, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody. My name is Ricardo Ortiz. I'm originally from Puerto Rico. I joined left down there, Frente Socialista, back in the 80s. In college, in university, I moved to the United States as a communist in '91. Then I, East Coast. Then I moved to the West Coast, and I've been involved, with labor struggles, solidarity with Puerto Rican independence, for the release of Puerto Rican political prisoners, involved in the fight against the expulsion of the United States Navy out of the island municipality, the island of Vieques. Steve Seltzer has been involved with me, though I dragged him into all these struggles. So, I know Steve for, almost for more than a little bit over 2 decades. We were young back then. So, well, right here I'm with United Public Workers for Action. And, you know, it's a pleasure meeting you all, the ones that I have not met before.
Okay, thank you. Gabriella, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. I hope you can see me or hear me. Yes, I'm here with CICOBAS. I'm part of the Union International Committee with Roberto. I'm based in Nottingham in the UK, but yeah, I'm coming back soon to Italy, so for some weeks. So I will join the struggles there, hopefully again very soon. Here in Nottingham, I'm involved also with all the groups, all the political groups, and I'm a socialist aiming to radical change myself too. And nice to meet you all.
Okay, thank you.
Same here.
Thank you. And Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol Lang. I live in New York. I'm involved with helping to build a United Front Committee for a Labor Party in the United States that Steve and I are involved with. I'm a longtime Trotskyist, involved in all kinds of different labor struggles. I'm an internationalist. I'm involved with fighting to help support the Columbia University students at the moment. But, you know, whatever I could do to support, there's no way to change anything fundamentally without changing everything internationally. So, which is why I'm a supporter of this group as well. And I'm hoping that we can get something international off the ground, because there's a crying need to fight against, especially against fascism, which is growing in the United States. So, you know, thanks for everybody for coming.
Thank you. And I for those who haven't met, I know most here. My name is Steve Zeltzer. I'm also with the United Front Committee for Labor Party and United Public Workers for Action. And also I'm a member of the Journalist Union here. I produce a weekly show called Work Week, and Pacifica. I'm a producer of COVID, Race and Democracy, and I'm involved in international labor struggles for many years, building a working class movement globally, which I think is critical for the survival of the working class. We have to have a strong international working class movement that can back each other up. So, okay, well, thanks all for joining. And so our first report is going to be on Namibia, and Haywat is going to make that report on the upcoming national protest against the attack on workers. So Haywat, you want to make the presentation?
Yeah, firstly, I need to apologize on behalf of Comrade George and his mine workers comrades. He asked me to convey to you that he's still in the north, far in the north. His grandmother passed away, and I think the funeral was today. Yeah. Was it today? Mm. Yeah, so, but he'll be back next week, so he could not be here. The other comrades are a bit in want of resources. I think Comrade Ipumbu is here. Yes, he's the dock worker. But we've been organizing on the initiative of the former mine workers of Goldfield, South Africa, TCI Tsume. Oh, yes. I've got these bodyguards, but they are a bit loud. They don't know when to keep their mouths shut. In any event, we've organized. The fishermen will be here. The mine workers from Rossing, at least their leadership will be here. Then it is the mine workers whose pensions funds had been stolen. That's the Goldfield South Africa workers, former workers. And what happened is that they've been fighting since 1998 against to get their pension fund back. And now the youth, their children and so on have taken over. Then there is a community of 3,500 people, workers living in the old contract labor at Tsumeb. That's about 400 kilometers north of Windhoek. There's a hell of a lot of corruption going on there. And they are trying to evict these people from the hostel. So those are general workers. They work in the mines, they work in retail, they work in food places and so on. So they are not a defined group. But then there is the homeless in Windhoek who had been fighting running battles with the local municipality since 1999. Then in 2002, the housing committee, they asked Erica to be their patron, and through that, they started a project which built 43 houses for 43 families. In an area which was reserved for higher income groups. And because the blueprint of development in Namibia in the cities are still according to the apartheid system, it's only that they have now changed race for class or income groups, rates of income groups. And yeah, this is what has been happening, and then the municipality and the courts and the police and so on launched an attack, especially on Erica and the committee leadership, including ourselves, in 2002. At one point, they tried to slander Erica for having stolen 1.1 million rand of the project. And they seized all the books which they have not given back until now. But that was just to break up the group. They succeeded for a while, but eventually, over these 20 years, they've caused so much problems in that group. They've been cutting off water. They've been running a war of attrition against them in order to force them out to the slum areas, the so-called informal settlements. But the problem that they've had was that the plots were registered in Erica's name, and these places were supposed to be owned by the Housing Committee of Homeless, which was registered as a welfare organization. So this is the legal situation, the dilemma that the municipality is in. And in the meantime, again, a more knowledgeable youth have developed in these communities, and the youth are now taking over these struggles because they are going to join the demonstration on Friday, the 3rd of December, and they are busy preparing posters and so on, and they will be out in full force. So the comrades from Britain have donated 60,000 rand. It's better I speak about rand because we've got Namibian dollars here, but it's only token. It's actually connected to the rand. So it's easier for you to understand rand than Namibian dollars. That was the situation. This will we will use this money. Are we using this money to what do they call it? Subsidize the travel costs of comrades from the far north and from the coast. The problem is that these workers, as we've reported before, are in a precarious position. At the moment, we do not have firm ground in stable with a stable workforce. The fishermen face temporary or have temporary contracts. The Rossing fellows have been fired, and yeah, that's the fishermen. That's it. The mine workers, most of them are unemployed and so on, so they are not in a position to come in full numbers as they did before. In 2008, we had quite a number of protest marches here, in which we normally had more than 1,000 to 2,000 mine workers coming from far and wide to protest with great effect. But this time, this should be qualitatively higher because these workers are coming down to articulate their individual problems, but also their collective problems, which would include certain political questions, democratic issues, not only the day-to-day problems that they have, and to seek for, they begin to understand the necessity of permanent working class organization on a wider scale than individual industries and so on. So for us, it looks as if it's going to be quite a qualitative leap in the consciousness of the workers. That is the situation now, and we hope that we trust that, and everything looks very, very promising for Friday next week.
Okay,
We
thank
are
you.
busy all the time. We are a bit behind with the petitions, but we hope by Monday, all of you should have a copy of our petitions, and we trust that you can endorse those petitions to the various authorities here.
Okay, thank you, Haywat. Is there anybody who would like to make a comment or ask questions of Haywat's report from Namibia?
Just a quick follow-up. Here, you'll see I put up a point on the chat because I've got links with Abashlali, you know, the shack dwellers movement in Durban, which is about 80,000 members nationally. But in Durban, it's a big group. Anyway, they'd be very keen to learn of this, and maybe I'm hoping that we could set some joint discussion either before or after. When is the 3rd? Is it Thursday?
Friday.
This coming Friday.
Was a Friday. Let's see what we can do there, and get a connection so that you know, we start getting these links going. You know.
That's great.
Yeah. Something that I need to add, the idea is to have a central protest here, but because of the logistics, these groups should, where they are in the various towns and so on, they should stage supplementary or complementary protest, which we will video and join it together with the other reports.
Good. Also, I'm going to try to do a panel of the different groups in Namibia, the dockers, fishermen, miners, people fighting for the houses, and maybe we can have a panel showing the broad struggle going on among the working class, the oppressed in Namibia, so people can get an idea of the depth of this, and we can get that out internationally. So I think this will be an important action by the working class in Namibia, which we've discussed before and which we're all going to support. So good luck on December the 5th, or the 3rd rather.
The 3rd.
The 3rd is a Wednesday, yeah. So that's coming up this coming Wednesday actually. And as soon as you get the petition out to us, we'll circulate that. Haywatt and the other comrades. Okay, if there's no other questions, then we'll go to our.
There is one other question, me.
Yeah, okay.
I was wondering whether that, but I'm on the international committee of my union, which is the Professional Staff Congress. And we have a meeting on the 4th. And I was wondering if you could send me the petitions and what any other backup information so I can send it to the international committee and ask them to endorse it, because I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, maybe they can send some.
Are you talking to me?
Or
Yes,
anybody
Haywatt.
who's sending out Haywatt, if you're sending out, could you send me the petition? And
Oh, yes.
anything
Yes.
else, any other relevant information so I can send it to my union?
Yeah, I think maybe just for organization's sake, the stuff that we send to Steve, he can disseminate amongst everybody.
Yeah, I'll send it out as soon as I receive it, so everyone can get it.
That's a rhetorical question.
Okay, very good. So our next report is going to be from Valerie Jefferson, who we've supported around her campaign to get her job back. Valerie, and also Gav is here also from New Orleans. So welcome, Gav. And so maybe Valerie, you can make a report, and then Gav can also comment on what's going on with your struggle, the struggle of the transit workers in New Orleans.
Okay, good morning again, everybody. Good afternoon and good night to you. I'm just want to give everybody an update, and I asked Gab to come on with me because I'm driving, and just in case I missed something. Right now we're at the stage of the company attorney, Senior Haley, and the union attorney, that's the ATU International, and my attorney, Mike Pearson from Chicago. They are dialoguing now. They are conversating now about me coming back. And I know what we're doing is working, because guess what, guys? They asked me to be silent just for this week. So we are making a lot of noise. We are making a lot of noise all over the United States, all over America, international noise, because RTA is proud of their image. So their image is being bruised, and they are upset with their image. They went to, I want to say, Florida, to the AFTA, and they won a, I want to say they won a rail reward, a safety reward, and our noise is overshadowing that. Our noise is overshadowing. RTA had us out on the out of hurricane, using the buses. The bus drivers out there parking the buses for lights, power, communication, water for the citizen, for the ridership of New Orleans. Guess what? Our noise is over that. So the attorney asked my attorney to ask me to be quiet this week, right? And they're supposed to be talking next week, Monday or Tuesday of next week. Well, I'm sorry, this week coming up. Because we are, of course, you all know that we want to do a rally and they got with the AFL-CIO because the AFL-CIO was hosting. They got and after, after that was postponed, they met with AFL-CIO. AFL-CIO pushed it. So during that time was my election. The election went. RTA got partners with my opponents to keep me off of their property. Of course, I was on the sidewalk. I still stayed on the sidewalk. Lost, but I found out.
You're breaking up, Valerie.
So I have another chance to.
If you could repeat that. You were breaking up a little bit. Maybe
Hello?
if you turned off, yeah, if you turn off your video, your sound may be better. You were breaking up. Your sound was breaking up on your report.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, that's better.
Okay, that's good. So now we got a chance to do the we got 3 of us, the members are doing a challenge on our election. Hopefully we can do the whole election over. Hopefully I'll be back at work next week. So right now we are like at a standstill because both of the attorneys are discussing my matter, me coming back to work. They want me to, RTA want me to apologize. I was willing to apologize, but my attorney said no apology. So you didn't do it, you didn't say it, you're not gonna apologize. So that's right there, that's where they're at right now. So Gavin, can you chime in if I'm missing anything?
Yes, just be careful driving, Valerie.
Okay.
You know, things are hard for the working class around the world, and they're not really great in Louisiana, and Valerie's driving to Mississippi now. So we have a saying down here, Louisiana is now the poorest state in the United States. Not rich in resources, rich in profits for the bosses, but the working class is not doing very well here. And but Mississippi comes in a close second, sometimes first, and we say here, thank God for Mississippi, or we'd be last all the time in everything. Education, wages, healthcare, the lifespan of workers, particularly Black workers. The biggest incarceration rate in the world is in Louisiana and in New Orleans, which has an image of being a liberal city, but is actually starting to look a lot more like Johannesburg used to look, at least. I'm not aware of what it's like now under apartheid, where there's a lot of professional whites that have moved into the city, and the Black community is being gentrified out into the outskirts. And so there's a tremendous amount of racism here. And it's what makes the bus drivers are important everywhere. All workers are important, of course. But having a Black led and a Black union and the power of Black workers is really the future, hopefully. And thank you, Valerie, for all that you do in that regard and for the workers. But it's a very low level of consciousness here in New Orleans and in Louisiana. And the unions here that do exist, there are unions, obviously, are very not politically conscious or activist. And that's the case statewide. That's also the case here in New Orleans. It's mostly, the union movement mostly works to establish the Democratic Party in the city and state. In the city in particular, the state is, of course, overwhelmingly Republican. And but that is just a trap for the unions to do that. As I always say, it's two capitalist parties with different methods and different styles, all amounting to international misery and misery for the working class at home as well. So that's my introductory greetings to New Orleans. Like what you may have heard, it's not all Mardi Gras and and music. It's a lot of low pay and a lot of difficulties. So it just shows the situation with the bus drivers. Valerie, I hope you're still here. I hope this is correct, that you would think that what I'm saying is correct. The struggle takes many forms, and it's sometimes easier to fight directly against the company. It's just straight outward. But sometimes that fight has to be taken inside the union for the workers to really clearly know what this whole thing was about, which is what we said from the day of the firing, from that first rally that we had, that this was about, that firing Valerie was about interfering with the power of the union in order to get some compliant leaders into the union. And it was all about the election that was right around the corner, and all about the contract negotiations that were going on, and also all about trying to be have more compliant union leaders. The fact that the transit system in the working class neighborhoods, particularly in the Black neighborhoods of New Orleans, is terrible. While they go ahead and they move ahead with multi-billion-dollar new airports, new links, and new things with the suburbs, more and more those working classes left behind in all this. And this is a very liberal board, so-called RTA.
You're breaking up, Gab. We can't hear you very well.
Close the video.
Yeah, maybe.
How's
Good.
that?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah,
Good
that's much
title
better.
then. So it's, you know, it was about really explaining, but what the company did was they took a totally illegal step, which is not unusual for companies to take legal and illegal steps, because the laws, especially here in Louisiana, are, you know, everywhere in the United States. People may think it's easy, that there are a lot of laws that protect union rights, but there's very few in the United States, actually, at this moment particularly, and in Louisiana especially. So to ban the elected president of the bus drivers union from entering into any premises where the workers were, to ban Valerie from taking part in grievances, contract negotiations, meetings of any kind, to bar her from being able to campaign on the grounds while allowing the opposition, the ones that are sucking up to management, on the grounds. And it was all about how to act and to change the union into a housebroken RTA adjunct, and not in the direction that Valerie and others are trying to take it, and so on. And this fight is far from over, but the most important thing is for the workers to have extreme clarity about what this was about, and to build up the strength internally inside the union, with both education and struggle, so that they do not feel as they are intimidated, because we know that when workers are afraid, and we all get afraid sometimes, that the best antidote is to fight back. But that takes a lot of organizing. And so that's, I think, Valerie is really trying to do. Valerie, did I represent this okay? Are you there? It makes me nervous that she's doing this while she's driving. So anyway, that's where that's at.
Okay.
This is just add on to this. Across the United States, there are bus driver strikes that are going on all over the place right now.
Sure.
And it's going to be a sector, the transportation sector, we're going to hear a lot more from.
Yeah. One of the problems, I know Carol has her hand up, one of the problems is these bus driver struggles in the United States. School bus drivers, transit workers are not unified. The international unions are not bringing everyone together. Different unions, but that doesn't mean you can't unify. And there's a wave of strikes in the United States of bus drivers throughout the country, and there needs to be a unified campaign to build support among all bus drivers in the United States. So
We
if
do have that problem in a lot of areas in the United
Sure.
States. There is a very much of a craft identification still in many places rather than industrial unionization in hospitals and other places. Even where you might have good leadership like the Nurses Association of the US, they have not moved to unionize the rest of the workforce.
Sure.
And unions are all over the place in who they represent in the United States. Everybody represents everybody. And
Yep.
there is no, national federation of transit workers or federation of hospital workers to which people of other unions, and the unions for the most part are not class conscious and political, and that's the biggest problem of all.
Sure.
And last thing that they do is, by supporting the Democratic Party, you support imperialism and militarism and the attack on workers all across the world, and that is never in the interest of workers here. And we can't separate that out from the economic struggle that we're waging. If we don't have solidarity globally, then we can't get anywhere. It's just because the capitalist class will just become very strong, stronger than ever, which is what they're trying to do now, and to the detriment of the workers everywhere, including here in the US.
And Gav, if you can write up the demands for what happened with the rigging of the election and the appeal, and also the company's role in keeping her from participating to reach the members, that would be good. We could get a statement out.
I'll consult with Valerie on it and see.
Okay, that would be good. Then we could get that statement out internationally and protest the rigging of the election and the attack on her democratic rights. Carol, and then Leonard.
One of the reasons, just to pick up on what Gav was saying, is that we're trying to build a labor party in the United States so that we will be in, so the working class will be in opposition to both the Democrats and the Republicans for all the reasons that everybody just stated. I'm wondering whether what I thought I understood is that the TWU was going to invite Valerie up to New York for a rally about her case. And I'm just wondering, we have to do things concretely, and we all need to know what's going on, but we have to figure out how to join these struggles together. And I'm just wondering whether there's any pressure on the TWU in New York to support Valerie in her struggle in New Orleans. What's happening with that?
I don't know, Valerie, are you here? I just say
Evangelina.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm here. They did invite me, but I told them I'm game for it. I'm just waiting for a reply back from them.
Okay, so there's a possibility of a rally in New York, solidarity rally in New York.
Yes.
And maybe with this Columbia workers strike, we could bring them together. Your participation in New York, if that Columbia workers strike is still going on, a joint action of striking workers would be very important politically to build solidarity.
Well, we're not on strike here.
We need to show solidarity. That's what I'm learning from this, because it hit me personally. That's what I'm learning from it. I really believe that. But when we show solidarity and when we expose internationally, not just in our little city, in our little town, in our little state, no. When we expose what's going on internationally all over the United States and different countries, then the companies, they do not like that. They do not like when labor or the employee push back for what's right, for justice, not no personal vindictive, no, for the labor movement, for another human being life, for our livelihood. We need to expose them. And this is working when we solidarily work together all over the world.
Oh, Leonard, you have your hand up?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Valerie. Leonard, you're on. You're
on
muted.
mute.
You're still on mute, Leonard. We can't hear you. Wait a minute. Let's see here. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Sorry for that. It was muted. No, I actually wanted to say the very same thing that Comrade Carol and Valerie have said, because when I listen to it's like sorry, if there is a struggle, like it's like you mentioned that the transport industry in America, it's like there is a lack of unity. Like it is worse there in the union, they are not showing solidarity support. So the question what I'm asking myself is like, we have to find a way where we can show solidarity support irrespective of the struggle that we find ourselves. Like also Comrade Valerie also have said that the moment we show our support, that is it's like most of the industry does not like it. So, and I'm actually glad that it is actually showing that it is actually showing to Valerie that it is working if we unite together as one. But for the transport industry, like in America, I actually wanted now to find out what actually is the main root cause why they are not united. What actually is the root cause, and what can we do to change that that platform? Is it now maybe because the working class there, they are not interested in the struggle? So it's all that I wanted to know, because we have to take accountability to ourselves to show that we are actually at war by this capitalist system. And then if you don't stand up, it's not easy to stand up. Like for us in Namibia, we are also like a small minority, but we also have decided that we are going to stand up to fight this injustice which is taking place here in Namibia. So I just wanted to find out what we can do so that we can defeat this system. Yeah, so that's my input.
Well, one of the problems is business unionism. In other words, the unions in the United States are just mainly about negotiating with each separate employer, each separate boss. And they don't see this as a general struggle nationally and internationally, because workers do have the power in Namibia, they have the power in the United States, they have the power in every country, Italy, if they join together. But there was in the United States a call for a general strike by the Vermont AFL-CIO, Dave Van Dusen, if Trump tried to do a coup, an insurrection, and that was ruled out of order by the national leadership of the AFL-CIO, Richard Trumka. He said, you can't talk about it. But actually, that's really what's necessary, a unification of the entire working class to challenge these attacks. So it's not just one union, one industry, but all workers together. So I think that's one of the things that we want to build on in this network, is direct action internationally, where we back each other up.
Okay.
Haywat, and then we're going to have to move on to our next presentation. Haywat, you wanted to add something?
I actually wanted to ask, it's difficult from country to country to understand exactly what the situation is regarding the class consciousness of workers. But the Black Lives Matter struggle was seemingly very powerful. Does that mean that it does not really relate into class terms? That is my question, but then I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, well, most unions, there were very few unions, I don't know, hardly any. There was union action in Minneapolis, where the transit workers in Minneapolis and other unions kicked the National Guard out of their union hall in Minneapolis. They were there to attack the Black Lives Matter protest. So that was action by workers. And in Chicago, Eric Slater, transit worker, was fired because he was talking about the union supporting not moving the police in the buses. But in general, there was no organized labor action with the Black Lives Matter. It was mainly individual workers joining the protest. only a small number of workers were organized in the United States, 8%, and there was no organized national action, although there was some participation, but not in any large degree. So that was what happened.
Yeah.
And in my
Okay,
union,
so
He asks about if the Black Lives Matter had a class character. If I'm not mistaken, I think he asked that.
yes, that is more or less what
Yeah.
I've asked, because the problem that I have seen with this is from the impression from far, but it also has its reverberations here. The petty bourgeois is inclined to take over such struggles that are not in clear class terms. That
Yeah,
is my experience.
actually,
But
yeah, sorry.
yeah, and then the other thing that I just needed to mention is it was a perennial problem throughout my struggles, my participation in struggles of workers since I was a teenager, is that the union bureaucracy plays a major part in keeping these struggles separate, and in fact suppress the tendency or the necessity of workers to unite. So it is my experience that you need a conscious organization, how small it might be, but I don't think one can go past it to participate or to involve oneself in these struggles of the working class. Sometimes they are more protracted than others. The protracted struggles, it is possible for socialists to participate and to draw major lessons, for to guide the working class to draw the main lessons or major lessons from these struggles. And I do not see how we can avoid doing that, to involve ourselves. But the major problem in the unity of workers is definitely the union leadership, as because that is the problem that we have here. That's a major problem we have in South Africa, and that's a major problem we have in most of these unionized countries.
okay. And also, Carol suggested that Leonard or some of the comrades in Namibia hold up a sign in support of Valerie at your demonstration on Wednesday.
Yes.
And that would be a good sign of international solidarity from Namibia to New Orleans.
Maybe we should hand a pamphlet, a petition over at the U.S. Embassy.
That would be good. That would be very good. Okay, so let's move on now. We're going to have a report from Roberto on the struggle of the Italian logistic workers. There was a rally yesterday at Amazon. He sent me a video, which I'll send out, of a picket that was held. So Roberto, you want to make a report? You're muted, Roberto.
To talk about this initiative, we have participated in the Make Amazon Pay campaign, but in Italy now Amazon is you can consider it yes, it's the biggest world company, but it is also the company that is leading the change of labor market to an increasingly precarious labor market, and so it is connected to other struggles that we have been and we still are waging against, for instance, FedEx. We have already talked about it, and also other companies which are firing workers or even closing warehouses in order to they are firing organized workers, workers organized in Secovas, who have in years of struggles have won much better conditions than earlier, and most of them are immigrant workers, so they were treated almost like slaves, and through years of struggles they have won much better conditions and much higher wages. But this brings a problem for capitalists, because if wages increase with the same conditions, then profits diminish. So they have two ways. Marx in Capital explained it. They have two ways to recover profits: either to invest in more mechanized and automated machinery and plants, so that they can reduce the number of workers and increase production. And this is the relative surplus value way. Or they can try to increase exploitation in the intensity of work, working pace, workloads, more flexibility, and they recover profits this way, or even lowering wages. Well, these companies are going both ways. For instance, FedEx has been closing a warehouse where workers who are almost 100% Secovas members had just won an increase in wages and had obtained so-called job security. And just 2 months later, FedEx has closed the plant, and in order to build a new one, which much more automation, and hire temporary workers, so that they can be blackmailed, because if they don't work harder with a lower pay, they will be just left at home after the term, the contract term. And yes, and Amazon represents the leader in this tendency to reduce the workers who are permanent and hire more and more temporary workers. And the same is happening at the supermarket chain in northern Italy. They have fired 48 workers who are Secovas members in order, and hired temporary workers. The temporary workers who was hired in their place told them that they don't even have the time to eat a sandwich in the lunch break, because they have to eat it while working. Yet, just to show what it means. And in these struggles of these fired workers, the government has intervened heavily with the police, which attacked pickets, and we have many workers received, I don't know how to call it in English, they were banned from putting their feet in the municipalities where they worked. So in order to prevent them from going again and protest at pickets and other forms of repression, I myself have received, have been served, I've been charged for participating in one of these pickets a few days ago. And besides police intervention, they also used private bodyguards, kind of Pinkerton agency, which is also collaborating with the police and service and intelligence services. So they are private but tied with the state repression. So it is not easy to win workers, to win a restatement of workers, and FedEx and also the other companies are trying to take advantage of the fact that these workers need money to live. And so they are offering golden handshakes in order to have them sign that they accept their firing. And yes, so we have also organized on the 13th of November a march in Naples with an association of the unemployed in order to put together employed, unemployed, fired workers, also of other workplaces like GKN in near Florence, and for common demands. Otherwise, the unemployed don't have bargaining power, and they are close after months of demonstration, are close to get jobs in keeping the city and environment well. And on Black Friday, we have participated to this campaign outside at the gates of one of the main Amazon warehouses in Castel San Giovanni near Piacenza, and about 500 workers have participated in these pickets, which have blocked all this warehouse for about 4 hours. And we were a bit surprised that the police was there but didn't intervene. They didn't attack the pickets, probably, I think, because Amazon didn't want to have negative advertisement from if the police would attack picketers at the gates. So workers were, this picket also helped make all workers participating aware of what is going on and of the need to fight against this increasing precariousness in jobs. And the government is increasingly introducing, all governments in the last 20 years have introduced new laws to allow more freedom to fire and more form of precarious jobs. So okay, this was an initiative that has gone on different media, and we are working. We have several contacts, workers inside this and other warehouses, Amazon warehouses. But first, you need to make a kind of underground work. Otherwise, they will be fired or sacked, like it happened in Poland with Magda. So we'll do this work. And in the meantime, we are also working to have international connections with the Amazon workers worldwide. So if you have any connections, well, we are working in this direction. And also we are planning an international conference of combative workers in the next months. I think we can discuss when to call it, because we are part of an international network of solidarity, and the International Labor Solidarity Network. But this is only composed of unions. We think that in many places, like also the United States and other countries, where the law only, also Germany or Britain, where there can be only one union representing workers in one company. There are many groups of combative workers who are in official unions, which but they are combative. They are not business unions. So we are working in this direction, and think that this can be also the basis for international, for a concrete form of internationalism. So I think that also this network that you have set up can help in this direction.
Okay, thank you, Roberto. One thing that has been raised is on January 12th is Bezos' birthday. So there's discussion about an international day of action at all warehouses, Amazon's, Whole Foods in the United States on January 12th. So there's going to be a meeting of this network that had a national day of demonstrations last year. And I think January 12th is going to be the action. And in San Francisco, and we've been involved in a fight against a warehouse that they want to build in this whole square block in San Francisco. So we may have an action, but I do think if there's another international day of action, we should all work together to collaborate and build actions around the world to support you. Also, thanks, that report is very useful. I would add, though, that the government of Italy is organized intense repression, arresting workers, Amazon workers, and also other workers who are protesting, and ordering them that they can't, they'll lose their immigration status, and also they will, their judgments against them, so that they can't be on the picket line. So they're doing that with the miners, actually, in Alabama. The judge has ordered that the miners can't picket outside the mines anymore. So they're trying to prevent the miners from taking any direct action. It's a union busting tactic of the bosses all over the world to prevent workers from, using their power. Is there any discussion on that report or questions?
Just a question. The right to strike, is it contained in statute in the US? Is there a right of strike in a statutory right to strike in the US?
Yeah, if you go through a legal process, if you have a contract. In New York, there's an anti-strike labor law called the Taylor Law that prevents the right to strike for public workers. They can be fined every day they go on strike. Carol?
They go on strike anyway.
They do go on strike, but it's they're legal actions that the bosses can take against workers who go on strike to fine them. Carol, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, that's the case in New York, which is why the unions, the public workers unions love this law, even though they say they hate it. They love it because it prevents city workers and state workers from going out on strike. But I wanted to ask Roberto, what about two things? What about other unions in Italy? Are they supporting you? Are they coming to the picket line? And I was glad to hear, I wanted to ask about international solidarity and maybe other parts of Europe. And I'm wondering what kind of, you said that you were working on it, and I'm just wondering what kind of inroads you've made in terms of getting, are there Amazon plants in France and in other countries besides Italy and Poland?
Well, as far as Amazon is concerned, we are only at the beginning. We are the strongest union in the logistics sector, mostly warehouse workers, but also delivery workers. But we haven't been able yet to make inroads in Amazon as an organized union. As far as the other unions, well, in Italy, we have the three main official unions, which are CGIL, CISL, and WIL, which are recognized by the government and also by Amazon, because Amazon called them and they made an agreement that they will go on together. Just before the Black Friday, they called a strike for delivery workers who are not directly Amazon employees, but delivery workers for Amazon. But they have called it, they have withdrawn it just 2 days before Black Friday, because they said they reached an agreement where they obtained €8 more per day, but without contributions. But they didn't mention the problem of precariousness, because about 70% of them are not permanent workers. They are all sorts of forms of contracts. So they left this issue completely as it is, while we are trying. They also made agreements. For instance, the law limits precariousness to 20%, but these unions with the DHL, which is one of the biggest logistic companies in Europe and Italy, they agreed to for an increase up to 45%. So they are just helping the companies against workers. This is and SICOBAS has grown because workers who were many times it's the bosses that tell workers, well, you have to become a member of this union or the other. And Sikobas won these workers when they saw the difference that we fight and we obtain also. And then there are many small unions, small, I mean, like Sikobas, which usually don't have a weight in a single sector, so they are more spread out, but they also they are not using the struggle as the main way to proceed. So they are trying to deal with institutions instead of calling workers to strike. So none of them have ever come and supported the pickets of Sikobas, while many groups of, we call them social centers in Italy, groups of young people, left-leaning young people come and give support to pickets. Yes.
I wanted to say something in relation to the question that Hiwat, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, I hope I said that correctly, had asked about the questions of striking and legality in the United States. There was a time when unions here were completely illegal. They were considered a conspiracy, and it took a combination of underground and very militant organizing with much self-sacrifice to be able to organize unions in the United States at all. It was the great, tremendous struggles in the 1930s that established legal rights for unionization in a different way, but was immediately followed up by laws that restricted the right to strike tremendously, and that have stayed on the books ever since the reactionary, very overtly reactionary times of the 1950s, when the United States was sweeping another period of time when the United States was mostly intent on dominating the world economically and militarily. And those laws are still in effect. The problem is not that that unions don't have a right to strike, or even non-union workers acting together have a right to strike. The issue is, when we strike, why are we striking? We strike to hurt the company, to force them to concede in one way or another, depending upon the strength of the strike, to demands that are being made by the workers. So the question is not whether you can walk on a picket line 3 blocks away or walk out. The question is, can you have an effective strike? And they will never agree to allow us to have effective strikes. We just have to do it. And it really goes hand in hand with the political situation in the United States, which preaches respect for all law, instead of the commitment to fighting the law whenever it's necessary. We cannot, I was involved, I remember a number of years ago, in a school bus driver strike where scabs were brought in, where injunctions, the strike leaders were in jail. I was their proxy negotiator while they were in jail, but in constant communication with them, where we stopped the buses through roving squads, through disabling the buses, through doing everything else. None of that was legal in terms of legality, but had to be done. And because the strike was very strong and got a lot of support, whatever they wanted to charge any of us with were part of the settlement issue, that those charges had to be dropped and anyone who was fired had to be returned to work. And that was at that time successful. What we're missing is the situation, for example, in Alabama with the Alabama miners. It's a mine that was taken over by a an equity company, an inequity company, a financial speculator company called BlackRock, one of the world's largest. And so they are fighting this enormous enemy, and they are in a rural area of Alabama. And the police are, of course, you know, stopping them from doing anything. And you can always find a judge. There's a saying in the union movement, you can always find a judge to issue an injunction against the workers. And this has been a real eye opener. I know this because several of our members have traveled out to Alabama to walk the picket line. But what we need to do is we need to get down there in the thousands. There needs to be a call. We need to organize Amazon. We need to do it all. But when they do this to a group of workers that have been taken over by a private equity company like BlackRock in the middle of Alabama, in the South, which has great significance here, we need to put out a call, and thousands of workers need to come there and tell the judge and the police, I'm sorry, but we have this right. We're going to have the right because we're going to make it the right. But the problem we have in the union movement, it's not just because they're bureaucrats. It's not just because they don't want it. They want these things to happen. It's because they're tied lock, stock, and barrel to the government. During the entire years of the Trump administration, the union movement didn't call a single demonstration. And they were passing anti-labor law, one after the other, after the other, after the other, to say, needless to say, that they were dividing up the working class by intense racism and anti-immigrant rhetoric everywhere they went. And there wasn't one demonstration that took place. And the same thing is true now. The real meaning of this verdict that came in the Rittenhouse case in Wisconsin, I don't know how familiar you are with it around the world, where this right-wing racist shot and killed 2 people on a protest and injured one severely, and was just acquitted of all charges, saying you can kill protesters, but the protesters were fighting the right wing in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And it's the same thing is true for the union movement. There's a pendulum that swung back after the Black Lives Matter movement, way to the right. And workers and unions are abiding by the idea, leave everything up to the Biden administration, which we know serves the same interest of profits and militarism worldwide. So however hard it is, however difficult, the workers are not going to come just to the union movement on the basis of, here in the South in particular, if the unions aren't going to stand up to racism, if the unions are not going to come out there and mass in number to defeat BlackRock in Alabama, then we've got a problem. How you can dare call it any type of a democracy where one judge bans minors who have spent their whole life in such oppressive conditions and who had taken deep pay cuts on the hopes of saving the mine, and then this private equity firm, the largest in the world, BlackRock, comes in and then tries to screw them over even more. And they stood up, and it's black and white together in Alabama, which is also very noteworthy. So we can pay, we read a lot and say, this is going on with Amazon, this is going on with this is going on with that, and barely a mention of what's going on in Alabama. But what the cure for Alabama is to say, get down there. If the unions were to put out a call for solidarity with the Alabama miners, I am sure that thousands of unionized workers in this country, regardless of the character of the union bureaucracy, would go down to Alabama if they were invited and stand and get outside those plants and stop those trucks. The Teamsters alone could bring the big rigs in and shut it down by blocking the roads. We are not powerless to stand in the face of these laws. And the only way we got any rights was by doing exactly that. You all know about the great sit-down strikes of the 30s. They probably happened worldwide, I'm sure.
Right. That's right.
But those strikes were not called in order to occupy and take over a plant so they would run it eventually themselves. They took those steps as defensive measures to stop the police from coming in and breaking the strike. and thousands of workers came to their aid and defense of those plants. And I believe with all of what's deficient now in the labor movement, that if the labor movement would show some spine and some militancy, then other workers, unemployed workers, precarious workers, all workers would say they're fighting. But right now it's only the right wing that's fighting and everything else is legalistic
Well,
nonsense. So
okay,
that's
well,
what I think we need to
yeah.
push in
Okay, well,
addition to, you know,
I think there are a lot of workers that are fighting in this country. There's strikes all over the country. There is a strike wave, but they're not being brought together. And like in the case, as you say, in the miners, they're not calling for workers to take direct action. They're having
and it's
protests
Alabama.
at Black Rock. Yeah, in Alabama. They're going to Washington. They're having protests at Black Rock, but they're not shutting down at the point of production. Yeah. And that's what the union bureaucracy is afraid of. But we're going to have to move along because we have 2 more reports and we should wrap it up, you know, quickly. So I think we have to move to our next speaker if we can, unless, hey, what, you want to make a brief comment or? I mean,
Yeah, I actually just wanted to say that the militancy of the workers will rise in a situation that we find ourselves in. I'm not in the United States, but I see a lot of anger there. The point is there are quite a few examples worldwide where what you have just said about what the workers can do is in this country in 1971-72, the contract laborers who were actually slave laborers, they launched a general strike throughout all the industries in this country and they brought it to a standstill. They sent in the army, killed some, and tried to use the army to do the job of these workers, which obviously was an impossible task. And they had to back down on the most heinous laws that they have. The reason why I just asked whether the right to strike was there, it was just a point of interest. In this country, those since 71, 72, the workers have fought together with the South Africans, working class, to reach very high levels of union rights. But obviously they did not have the leadership to sustain the struggles and to take it further. But what they now do, we have all these rights on the statute books, right to strike, right to picket against scab labor, but they, through corruption in the courts and so on, and in making common law verdicts and so on, they are disabling this law. It's just a point of interest.
okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to, in order to get through this agenda, we're going to skip the report on Colombia and what's going on there and go to Ricardo Ortiz, who's going to make a report on what's going on in Italy and the solidarity action on December the 2nd. Ricardo?
In Argentina, let me correct
In
you.
Argentina, yeah.
You said Italy.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah, actually, let me begin by saying that yesterday happened over there in Buenos Aires, an open meeting of the Frente de Izquierda de los Trabajadores, and you know, it was attended by dozens of organizations, and they did decided that they're gonna have a big mobilization on December the 11th to protest austerity measures imposed by the International Monetary Fund and you know, the current policies against the working class of the, you know, Peronist government that is running the country right now. So that is on the 11th, and it's expected to be 10,000 of people, probably you know, over 100,000 of people easily over there in Buenos Aires. Okay, let me get to you know, the core of my report. I participated last Wednesday on a meeting related to the fight for the absolution of the charges brought against César Acaraqui from the Partido Obrero and Daniel Ruiz from the PSTU. So as you know, are familiar with this because last week Guillermo Kane and Cesar Caracci gave you a report of the situation.
Okay,
Well,
all the people here were not on that report. So why don't you just briefly mention who those two workers are?
Okay, yeah, those two workers are members. Cesar Caracci is a member of the Partido Obrero, a militant Trotskyist organization in Argentina. And Daniel Ruiz is a member of the Partido Socialista de los Trabajadores Unidos, another Trotskyist organization in Argentina. And they were arrested in the year 2017, and they were charged with aggression, intimidation, more or less another charge similar to what in the United States would be disturbing the peace, all these more or less ambiguous charges. So, the Argentinian government brought these militants on trial, and they were found guilty after a lengthy trial and sentenced to, 3.5 years in the case of Cesar and 3 years in the case of Daniel Ruiz. And, these charges were, frame up. These guys did not commit all these actions that they are attributed to have done. They are innocent, they are not guilty, and, it's a fight to now, it's a continuation of the fight to free these comrades. They are free on appeal, they're appealing the cases through the Argentinian judicial process, but they are mobilizing, they obviously are not gonna let this in the hands of the Argentinian court system because, it is a corrupt system, it's a bourgeois system, and their trial and their, sentencing is an intent to silence opposition now with the current crisis that is going on, around the world because of the world capitalist system, and obviously deeply felt in the so-called global south. So going back to the substance of the meeting, this meeting took place on Wednesday, and participated 53 persons from numerous organizations in Argentina. It was present one prominent member of the Partido Obrero who got elected to the city of Buenos Aires City Council, Gabriel Solano, also was present among many people. Nicolás del Caño, who is a member of the Partido de los Trabajadores Socialistas, who recently was elected to the Argentinian federal parliament, to the House, what would be in the United States, the House of Representatives. Argentina has a Senate and also has a House of Representatives, the Chamber of Deputies. It's more or less how they call it. So, and other civil rights organizations, representatives were there. So it was agreed that on December the 2nd, it's going to be a worldwide day of action in solidarity for demanding the release of these comrades. Everybody around the world is encouraged, groups, individuals. If you are an individual and you are in a city and you are, so-called isolated, well, at least it's it would be demanded that you write a letter to the Argentinian embassy of your country and demand the freedom of these fighters. But if you are in a big city, you have access to organizations, to groups of people. It's encouraged that you please organize a demonstration at the Argentinian embassy of your country, or to a demonstration in front of the Argentinian consulate of your city, if it is possible. So I've been trying to organize a demonstration right here in San Francisco. I have spoken with people in LA, in Los Angeles, and we are calling people everywhere in the United States that if they can organize a demonstration in the front of any Argentinian consulate, please do so. At the same thing, we encourage people around the world to do the same thing. Organizations that are in the Frente de Izquierda de los Trabajadores is a United Front Electoral Coalition of Trotsky's organization in Argentina, where the Partido Obrero belongs, which they are also encouraging people around the world to do so. So yeah, that's the update of this case. So any questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Are there any questions? Are you going to have a statement out, a call for this rally?
Oh, okay. Good question. The Partido Obrero sent me a draft encouraging people to do actions. It doesn't have the date, but the date was already agreed upon. They sent me a preliminary copy in Spanish, which I responded to them. You have to translate this document, and you got to put the exact date, that this is taking place around the world, because otherwise organizations, it would be difficult to take a position on this. So, I sent 2 emails back to Buenos Aires, and, as we're speaking, I haven't got that response, but it's expected that, at one point or the other, they would.
Okay,
But,
well, as soon as you get the statement, we can distribute that around to everyone in this network and ask for solidarity action. And that should have the information in it to what to do if they can't have a rally.
Sure.
Is there any comments or questions on that report?
Yeah, we can maybe put up a banner or a poster on the 3rd, which we can include in the video in support of the comrades in Argentina.
That is wonderful. If there is an Argentinian embassy in your country, or there is a consulate in your country, also you can send letters demanding the release, and the dropping the charges of these comrades.
I'm not so certain whether there's an Argentinian consulate here.
Check it out.
We'll find out, and we can send it then to South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Great. Okay, well, that would be good if you had a poster at your rally, and I'm sure they'd appreciate that. And from Africa to Argentina,
yes,
they would definitely appreciate that.
Steve, just a short comment. We are very impressed to see the election results, and that the left has won something like another 500,000 votes. It's absolutely marvelous. So we want to congratulate you, comrades.
Actually, they are all over the country. They got over 1 million votes. So, and actually in the province of Jujuy in the north, which is one of the poorest Argentinian provinces, and the most indigenous habitated province in Argentina. The candidates of the FIT, the Workers' Front, got 20-something% of the vote. They elected a comrade that is a sanitation worker and an indigenous, from an indigenous background. So it is extremely impressive, definitely. And more impressive is the militancy that they are doing. Every week is something going on in Argentina. It's some major rally going on. you know, I have constant communications with the comrades, and it's even hard to keep up, you know. So this is, in my personal opinion, a worldwide opportunity of creating, you know, an independent class, a Marxist united front, you know, to overthrow capitalism. I wish the comrades, you know, very, you know, well.
Okay, if there's no other comments, should we set up the next meeting? When would people like to meet again?
Yeah, maybe just as a point of interest, we won as a Trotskyist party 2 seats in 2014. But the United States and the EU decided that there'll never be a communist in this parliament. And so we couldn't use it. But with time, we'll tell you the whole story.
Okay, before Steve, before just a second, before, you know, the meeting is adjourned, I'm gonna put my email address on the chat. So you know, if anybody wants to you know, send me a question, whatever related to these matters, you can feel free to do so.
Okay, very good. So the next proposed date would be December the 11th. If people can make it on that date, we'll send the notice out, and we'll copy this video and have it available so people can see the reports. If other people want to see it as well, they'll be able to see the reports.
Isn't there some demonstration going on the 11th?
Well, it's just going to be 9. I don't know.
I thought it may be in Argentina or something like that.
I said that, yeah, I said that on the 11th, it's going to be a huge mobilization against the International Monetary Fund in Argentina at 4 p.m. Buenos Aires time.
So that's New York time.
So we could have it maybe an hour early, maybe 8.
Yeah.
8 o'clock or something like that. 8 a.m.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that agreed? Okay. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining us internationally, and we're going to continue the fight. I would also say we will have a report if there's going to be an international action on January the what was it? January the 11th, I think. So we can put that out. So thanks all. Solidarity, brothers and sisters.